Last time we talked about Inuyasha, Sesshomaru, and Inu no Taisho, but today we're talking about everyone's first anime waifu, Yura of Hair. And if she wasn't your first, you probably just didn't watch Inuyasha. Yura, as her epithet might suggest, was a hair demon, created when a comb was used to brush the hair of a demon for many years. The manga states instead that it was used on the dead rather than a demon, and the soul of the person that it was used on was transferred to the comb. While she did have her own body, she was more or less invincible if the comb remained intact. Yura was able to create and manipulate razor-sharp strands of hair that could travel a pretty significant distance, and she could even use them to control people like marionettes or set the hair on fire with the use of her comb. There are several yokai with hair as a big focus: the Kejero, the futakuchiona, and the Harionago. Of these, I'd say Yura is probably a mix of all of them in little ways, while leaning hardest into the Harionago. The Kejero was a yokai with long flowing hair so dense that it sometimes covered their entire body. They were often found in the red light district, and she particularly liked to target men who frequented brothels. She would lure them in and then shock them with her horribly hairy appearance before attacking them. But I guess she wasn't all bad. While horrifying to people, the Kejero was apparently very popular with male yokai who would fight for her attention. I think the sheer amount of hair was probably borrowed and exaggerated for Yura, as well as being someone who's able to lure men in. Both the yokai name Kejero, as well as the actual kanji, refers to the idea of change, along with a woman's ability to alter their appearance and hide their true face, possibly being linked to Yura not actually being the body that we see. Next up, the futakuchiona, or the two-mouthed woman. This yokai was also known to have a long head of hair. While beautiful, anyone who got too close would be in for quite a surprise. She was able to manipulate the hair like a serpent to reveal a second mouth on the back of her head, and she could also use the hair to hold prey or shovel food into her new mouth. Apparently, the women who would become futakuchiona were often said to be in relationships with cheap men, and thus would often go hungry. The second mouth would develop on the back of their head and demand food, screeching and causing tremendous pain if it wasn't able to eat. Obviously, the food portion was left out for Yura, but being able to manipulate her hair so fluidly likely comes from this yokai. Finally, the Harionago, or the Hariona, was a beautiful woman with long hair that was tipped with thorns or hooks. She would often laugh or smile at young men, and if they did so in return, she would attack them. Her hair was so strong that it could restrain even the strongest men and render them helpless before tearing them to shreds and devouring their remains. Pretty dead on when you look at how Yura was able to control and attack people. So we talked about the hair aspect and how it relates to those three yokai, but let's talk about Yura's comb and her true form. This likely comes from a fairy tale in Japan called The Strange Story of the Golden Comb. In this story, two children named Konojo and Aiko are arranged to be married at birth. Konojo's mother gifts a golden comb to Aiko, and soon after, the boy's father upsets the feudal lord, and his family is exiled from Sendai. Years later, Aiko is considered the most beautiful woman in Sendai, while her sister Ayame is being called the second most beautiful woman. They find the golden comb, and Aiko learns about her arranged love, not knowing if he's alive or dead. She becomes so depressed and in her own head about this that she refuses to eat or drink and eventually passes away. Beyond the grave, the spirits of the dead take pity on her and allow her to possess her sister for long enough for her to meet Konojo. When she meets him, she tells him that she loves him, and he says the same, before she asks him to marry her sister in her place, as she explains her time is up. Her final request is to ask him to put a golden comb in her hair one more time. There's a big chunk of the story which I cut out, but these are the important bits revolving around the comb. And the association with the comb and the dead kind of links me to Yura in a pretty direct way, I think. But yeah, this was a quick look at the yokai inspiring Yura of Hair. If you enjoyed and want to see more yokai-based videos, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And of course, until next time, remember to stay excellent.